Ooh, it works. I'm pretty sure what I just showed you is illegal. Hey everybody, welcome back. I've got just a little bit of a change of pace for you today. Now recently we've been talking a lot about the Evo and what Braden's having TPG tuning do to it and some of the drag related stuff with that car. I've been talking a lot about the Civic and the K24 all-wheel drive stuff I've been doing with it, the hard bars changes, wiring, etc. So today we're going to talk about a completely different type of racing, and that is the Champ Car Endurance Racing Series. Now for anybody that doesn't know, Champ Car is a circuit race based series, and it is comprised of, and this may not be everything so don't quote me, but I know these to be sure, 8x7s, which means 8 hours Saturday, 7 hours Sunday, or an 8x8, or a 10x10, or a 24 from noon Saturday to noon Sunday. We stick to the 8x8s and the 24s. We find those are the most challenging for us, though we are going to do two 10x10s this year and a 24. So this year we plan to race Virginia International Raceway's 24. We plan to race Indianapolis Motor Speedway's 10x10 and then Mid-Ohio's 10x10. And we use a 1998 Civic EX. It is still a D16. We turbocharge it to keep it competitive, and what I would like to do is kind of explain the differences between what you would find in a drag race and what you'd find in a circuit race. So being on either side of these being on either of these sides has been really useful for me because, you know, in drag racing you can get away with a bunch of horsepower and stock brakes, or even smaller than stock brakes in most cases for high horsepower stuff. And Braden will prove some of that out this year with his setup on the Evo. But in the endurance racing stuff, we found out very quickly that if you use a 200 horsepower engine and stock brakes, that's a really good recipe to get you killed and or someone else around you. So we're going to go through some of the battles we've had with this car where we've had to kind of get everything else up to par to keep up with 200 horsepower on the track. And some people might be like, why are you still using a D16? Why wouldn't you use a B series or a K series? And we'll go over all that. James handles the rule book because I can't read, so he takes care of how to keep us legal, and I take care of putting all the stuff in the car, making it work. Now, working on a team with 5 other engineers, things get looked really far into, like down to the molecular level. So it gets very challenging, but we typically make pretty good decisions right away as long as the budget allows. So what we're going to do today, we're going to talk about where this car came from, how we started racing it, then we're going to talk about what we did to get to the point we're at, and then what we're going to do to make the 2020 season even better. So with that being said, let's head over, let's meet a couple of these guys. I think only 2 of them are going to be there today. And let's work on this car a little bit and learn a little bit about it and see if you guys like the circuit racing stuff. If so, I'll keep it coming because there will be plenty of it this year. There's going to be a lot of seat time, and we keep video of every single second the car is on the track. So there is some pretty entertaining and intense stuff in there. So that being said, let's get to it. Let's go see these guys. Meet James. James Scott, team rulebook keeper and treasurer. Like me, James is also a loose cannon at the wheel. James is going to tell you about the Champ Car. James. So earlier I told everybody that we went with a D16 turbo, and I figured people would freak out because it's not a B series or a D series. Why did we go D series?
It's better for points. We move up a class from what is it, A to B class.
So B class is where the 2 liters start, right?
Yep.
But we're technically a 2 liter because we turbocharged it.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what I thought. And now, as you can see, there are things like this that were done in here for crankcase ventilation. We had issues with this bleeding out a bunch of oil into the catch can, so we went with a different route up top and the back. So we're going to clean that up this year and get some of that stuff taken care of, but that was just a quick fix last year to keep us on the track. And there's a lot of things in here like that. As you can see, we have gusseted our eBay manifold. So we just did what we had to do to keep it on the track last year. You know, we got a big radiator and everything, and the car was reliable up until, you know, head gasket blew and the brakes failed and the brakes overheated. The brakes were rough. I don't remember anything about these things, James.
Oh geez.
None of this is Civic brakes.
It's a Civic. No, it's a Accord / NSX front. No, not NSX. NSX is a 2-pot.
Legend
Or Accord front caliper with a Mini Cooper rotor.
That's right, it was Mini Cooper base.
Yeah, Mini Cooper base, not the S. And then the pads, because there's a slight difference in the outer diameter of the Mini Cooper rotor, we have TSX pads to offset the pad a little bit closer to the center of the axle.
So it's like in a 95 Accord caliper,
Yeah,
an 05 Mini Cooper rotor,
yep,
and an 05 TSX set of pads,
that's correct.
and it works.
And it works.
It works really well.
It works really well.
We had to swap these knuckles at our last race. The other knuckles have a port for this fiberglass tube to go on that runs up to our brake duct James put on the car. And then we had to do things like this to kind of keep it away from the crank pulley and the tire. Actually worked out pretty well as long as they stayed on there. But yeah, so that's the front brakes. Then the rear brakes, James.
Civic Si.
It's all Civic Si.
Identical to a Civic Si. However, we used a bracket we bought from, I think it's Scarebird Brakes. They make a bracket so you can mount a caliper onto what used to be a drum.
Yeah, so these are drum trailing arms, right?
So it's the same exact trailing arm on an EX, yeah. Like, we didn't change anything except for the bracket and then adding the caliper and the rotor. So we didn't have to monkey with any trailing arm swaps.
Those brackets are pretty inexpensive, right?
$100
For both.
for two.
Nice. There's our obligatory test and tune lawn chair. Those have to stay in the car for test and tune. And then you guys got most of the interior pulled out. Some of it's up there. But what's the plan in here?
Basically, we're gutting the inside, except for leaving the engine and then making sure it's drivable, so we can put a lawn chair in there and move it to our roll cage welder. So we're adding a dash bar and some other goodies up front.
This thing has 17,530 some odd actual miles on it. This car has been a race car since day one.
I think
All
we
right.
put 7,000 miles on it.
That's Dan.
We've had it.
Say hi, Dan.
Hi, Dan.
Dan Gregory, all around team badass. You name it, Dan does it. Dan is definitely here to race. That's Dan. All right.
So yeah, spare motor stays in it, everything stays drivable, but we got the inside and work on the suspension while it's here in Dan's shop.
So the dedication of these three guys and then two other guys on the team is sitting right here. Before our last race, we found out at what, 7:30 p.m. right before the race that our engine was toast.
Yep.
And we don't really necessarily know what happened or why, but we swapped this engine into the car up until about 4:30 in the morning. Went home, got an hour of sleep, went back to the track. We were there at 7:30, got out for test and tune, and this engine also was having issues, so we didn't even get to race our last race. But hell of a lot of dedication on this team, and then you'll see some of that coming up here soon on this car. So now we're going to do a time lapse of Dan and I working on it because James has to go, and I missed him working on it because I'm not a good teammate.
It's all right, you'll make up for it.
So anyway, we're going to get started working on this car and our parts car over here.
Meanwhile, I'm gonna put my coveralls back.
Dan's putting on his dirty coveralls again. This car here is an LS VTEC. It is a B18 B1 with a GSR head. We are going to get this engine running so that we can prove it does, and then we're going to take it out, and any one of you yahoos that wants it can buy it. We don't know what it's worth, but we will figure that out and we will charge you for it. So this is just a parts car. Anybody that needs anything off of this four-door Civic EX, come and buy it. Bye, James.
Bye, James.
Bye.
All right, let's get busy. I think we could technically just take the ignition switch off the back of the ignition and just turn it. 'Cause that's all it is. So if we got a 7mm.
We should have that here.
All right, where's that flathead at? Ooh, it works. I'm pretty sure what I just showed you is illegal, but if you gotta get your car started and you can get all this off, you can do it. Oh, if it's gonna start or not. It seemed pretty weak. I hear it trying. Champ car. All right. Something popping.
Well, did you push clutch in?
It's just been so long since I've driven a manual.
Are you still recording?
Oh yeah, oh yeah. All right, let's give this another try now that I reminded Dan I gotta push the clutch in. Ready? Yep. Sounds pretty good. This thing's been sitting for definitely more than a year. I think 2 or 3. This engine sounds great. All right, we're gonna fire this thing up, see if it runs. Well, here we go. Ready?
Yep.
It'll pick.
Sure that gas is at least 4 years old.
It's gonna pick that hole up here in a minute too. It's getting better. Unbelievable. Something to be said about a Honda engine you can cobble together out of other parts in this condition and have it just run.
Yep.
Awesome. And we started with a screwdriver.
Yeah.